The classic pickup bed with separate rear fenders is gone, yet its most useful feature is suddenly everywhere. Modern trucks advertise tailgate steps, bumper steps, and folding steps beside the box because owners still need a safe way to reach cargo. Detroit abandoned the old narrow bed, then spent years engineering new ways to recover the access it once provided. So why did the traditional Stepside disappear, and why did its best idea refuse to die? Before answering that, there is one detail every Ford owner in the room will want corrected. Stepside was Chevrolet's name. Ford called its external fender bed Flareside. Chevrolet used Fleetside for its wide bed, while Ford used Styleside. Enthusiasts now use Stepside as a convenient generic term, but the badges mattered when these trucks were new. The design itself came from a time when a pickup box was almost brutally honest. The cargo floor fit between the rear wheels. Because the box was narrower than the truck's rear track, each tire needed a separate fender outside the bed. A small running board or step filled part of the gap between cab and fender. Nothing about that shape began as retro styling. It was simply a practical way to place a box on a truck chassis. The narrow floor stayed flat from one bed wall to the other because the wheel housings remained outside. Shovel in grain, sand, leaves, or gravel, and there were no humps interrupting the floor. Stack narrow cargo or slide brush out the side, and that flat interior could be genuinely useful. Then there was the step. It put a boot near the front half of the box, exactly where cargo can become hardest to reach from the tailgate. General Motors later described that step as a leftover from the old running board, but also admitted why it lasted. It helped owners reach things collected near the front of the bed. That is the part nostalgia remembers correctly. The old bed could be easy to approach from the side, but nostalgia often leaves out the invoice. The rear tires already occupied a wide area. A narrow box surrendered the space above and around them. Its floor was clean, but its overall cargo envelope was smaller than a body that extended outward to the truck's full width. A wide box could place the wheel housings inside, then use the extra width ahead of them, behind them, and above them. The question was not whether one shape was universally better, it was which compromise more buyers would accept. A farmer moving loose material might value a narrow, uninterrupted floor. A contractor carrying bulky cargo might prefer more total box volume. And by the middle of the 1950s, another customer was entering the argument. That customer wanted a pickup to look less like equipment and more like a car. Chevrolet saw the change early. The 1955 Cameo Carrier looked as if its rear body flowed straight back from the cab. It was polished, expensive looking, and deliberately unlike the ordinary work truck beside it. Yet beneath those smooth sides was a clever disguise. The Cameo did not have a truly full-width cargo floor. Chevrolet attached molded fiberglass skins to a conventional narrow pickup box and tailgate. The same supplier involved with early Corvette bodies produced those outer panels. From the curb, the Cameo appeared to have solved the old bed's visual problem. From inside the box, the basic geometry remained. That makes the Cameo more important than a simple luxury truck footnote. It proved that smooth body sides had emotional value before Detroit had fully changed the cargo package. Buyers were beginning to judge a pickup as a designed object, not merely a chassis with a box attached. 2 years later, Ford made the decisive move. Its 1957 light-duty truck brochure introduced the Styleside pickup body as standard equipment at no extra cost. Ford advertised greater body capacity and offered the new smooth box in multiple lengths. The traditional external fender body remained available, now identified as the Flareside. That naming decision captured a complete status reversal. The wide Styleside became the normal choice. The old workbox shape needed a special name. Chevrolet followed in mid-1958 with its smooth-sided, double-wall Fleetside box. But Chevrolet did not immediately erase the Stepside. General Motors says the older design remained available in one form or another for roughly another 45 years. That long overlap matters. If the wide bed had simply made the narrow bed useless, the old shape would have disappeared almost overnight. It did not. Instead, the market reassigned its purpose. The external fenders stopped saying ordinary work truck and started saying tradition, personality, and eventually performance. A feature born from simple chassis packaging became a deliberate visual signal. The step was still practical, but the silhouette now carried much of the sales pitch. Ford's own 1977 advertising makes the change almost impossible to miss. The company promoted a short wheelbase Flareside called the Shorty and dressed it with freewheeling striping, special colors, dark trim, and optional wheels. The language sold attitude. Ford even described the truck as a return to the classic look of the 1950s. Only 20 years after the Styleside arrived, the Flareside was already nostalgia from the factory. That did not make it fake. An owner could still stand on the step. The narrow floor still had advantages. But the business case was moving away from utility and toward identity. Once that happened, the old bed entered a dangerous category. It became a second body family serving a narrower audience. If overlooked American truck design deserves more than a quick nostalgia montage, subscribe to Classic Cars USA. The next turn is where a beloved shape becomes commercially disposable, even while owners still value what it does. No single press release announced the death of the Stepside. There was no one villain and no regulation that ordered the separate fenders removed. The evidence points to a slower equation. A manufacturer offering two bed families needs different outer panels, fenders, brackets, finishing operations, replacement parts, and inventory. Each bed must also fit the cab, wheelbase, trim, and drivetrain combinations the company is willing to certify and sell. That burden is manageable when both shapes attract large groups of buyers. It becomes harder to defend when one is the mainstream cargo box and the other is mostly a style choice. At the same time, pickup design changed around the bed. Cabs grew, four-door trucks expanded, buyers demanded short boxes with crew cabs, longer boxes for work, luxury interiors, towing hardware, and ever more trim packages. Every extra configuration competed for factory space and dealer attention. The wide bed could serve their expanding market while also absorbing the visual tricks that once made a Stepside special. Designers could flare the rear quarters, sculpt the wheel openings, add sport graphics, or build an aggressive performance truck without giving up the mainstream cargo box. The separate fender silhouette no longer had a monopoly on personality. This is why blaming the disappearance on aerodynamics alone misses the larger story. Smooth sides may help airflow and simplify styling, but the fatal disadvantage was not one gust of wind, it was redundancy. The wide box performed the core hauling job for more buyers, carried the dominant look, and supported more of the combinations the market wanted. The old bed increasingly had to justify an entire set of unique parts with affection rather than necessity. Affection kept it alive for decades. Chevrolet moved through Stepside and later Sportside variations. Ford repeatedly revived the Flareside look. In the 1990s, rounded fiberglass bedsides made some versions look less like farm trucks and more like street machines. The external fender was no longer merely exposed, it was exaggerated. That era produced some of the design's strongest collector appeal, but it also revealed the trap. If a narrow bed survives mainly because it looks different, fashion can remove its reason to exist. A new generation of trucks can create distinction with sheet metal, wheels, lighting, and trim, while keeping the standard box underneath. Ford still documented Flareside F-150 body configurations for the 2009 model year. In the following year's brochure, the listed boxes were Stylesides. The old layout had survived the arrival of the interstate, the muscle car era, fuel crises, emissions controls, electronic fuel injection, and the luxury pickup. Then it quietly left the full-size factory catalog. The timing creates a wonderfully uncomfortable question. If side access was one of the old bed's genuine strengths, what happened when trucks became taller and the step disappeared? Owners climbed on tires. They balanced on bumpers. They reached over increasingly high box rails. Ford's own engineers later described watching customers use those awkward methods during development work for a new Ranger. The response was an integrated step behind the rear tire, placed beside the box to provide a stronger route up. Read that again as a design confession. The modern wide bed won because width and packaging mattered, but once it grew tall enough, engineers recreated a foothold beside the cargo box, almost exactly where the old truck had offered one naturally. The same Ranger project makes the trade-off even clearer. Ford did not bring back the narrow floor. Engineers widened the truck by about 2 inches so the cargo box could accept more useful loads, including a full-size pallet carried flat. Then they added the external access step. In other words, the modern solution deliberately combined the wide bed's packaging advantage with the old bed's easy approach. That combination is more than a convenient feature list. It reveals which parts of the classic design the market rejected and which part it had merely neglected. The separate fenders were no longer required to cover wheels outside a narrow box. The flat floor between them was not valuable enough to outweigh the larger cargo envelope for most buyers. But placing a secure foothold near the side of the bed still solved a real human problem. The old truck forced those qualities to arrive together. Its construction gave you the narrow, uninterrupted floor, the external fenders, and the step as one package. Modern engineering could unbundle them. It could keep the part that helped a person climb while discarding the geometry that constrained totem space. Ford had already introduced a tailgate step option on Super Duty for 2008. Later trucks added retractable handles, box side steps, rear corner steps, and more elaborate tailgate access. Current Ford accessory literature still markets a retractable side step with a direct promise: easier access for loading and unloading the bed. The step came back because the human body did not change with the pickup catalog. This does not mean Detroit should revive a narrow box on every new truck. The old design's easy access arrived with a real loss of width. Modern steps recover much of that access while preserving the full cargo envelope. From an engineering perspective, that is a sensible answer, but it also explains why collectors remain attached to the original. A classic Stepside or Flareside makes its compromise visible. The fenders tell you where the wheels are. The running boards show you where to place a boot. The bed does not pretend to be part of one continuous luxury body. It looks assembled for a purpose, even when later versions were sold largely for style. There is also an honesty to the narrow floor that modern volume measurements can hide. More total space does not guarantee a better shape for every load. Wheel housings interrupt a wide bed's floor. A flat, narrow box can be easier to sweep, shovel, or unload in certain jobs. Owners who defend that feature are not merely romantic. They are remembering a different packaging priority. So the traditional bed was neither a perfect tool foolishly discarded, nor an antique that progress simply erased. It was a bundle of useful qualities and costly compromises. Detroit separated that bundle over time. The industry kept the wide cargo space. It kept the smooth sides. It kept the ability to style a truck as sporty, luxurious, or aggressive. It let the dedicated narrow box and its external fenders fade away. Then it brought back the foothold. That is the real afterlife of the Stepside pickup. Its silhouette became collectible because it could no longer be ordered. Its flat floor remained valuable to owners whose work suited it. And its simplest feature returned under new names because getting into a pickup bed never stopped being a problem. The narrow box lost the production argument. The step won the design argument. Every modern foothold beside a pickup bed is proof that the old truck was not wrong. It was carrying two ideas at once, and only one of them had to die.